The United States Preventative Services Task Force recently released their new mammography standards guidelines. What does this mean for us? I'm Lisa Malia. I am the founder of For the Love of Cups. We've been advocating and helping women understand their mammogram results and advocate for better screening methods when it comes especially to breast density and better breast density notifications so that we can take the necessary steps to ensure that we have appropriately screened every woman and given every woman a fighting chance at early detection. So today we're going to dive into, and we've been doing that since 2015. It started on my own personal journey of having been diagnosed with dense breast tissue and understanding really where the gaps in care lied around that time. There have been some improvements since then, and I'll dive into that a little bit. But why this specific recommendation matters, who is the USPSTF anyways? It's the United States Preventative Services Task Force. And they make recommendations based on their research and their opinions at the time of what they believe is going to be the best way to best screen the most amount of women. So this latest recommendation has some good and some not so good with it. And I want to go over those things about what it means for you, because what we do here is really help women understand what those results mean and how to advocate for better care for anyone going to get a mammogram, for anybody who has dense breast tissue especially. So this is the same organization that recommended women and people needing a mammogram start at the age 50 for their screenings. So you already know that I had a problem with that, and they are at least rolling that back to begin mammograms at the age of 40. So they have rolled back that recommendation. They're now saying at the age of 40. They're saying every other year, which I don't necessarily agree with. But these are discussions that you need to be having with your care provider. How often mammograms, maybe every other year, especially if you have dense breast tissue, you're getting an ultrasound. Every year a mammogram and an ultrasound, every other year just an ultrasound. These are conversations you can have with your provider and things you can advocate for yourself. So if you were here with me back in March of 2023, we were very excited because a new recommendation, a national mandate went out that said we need to be notifying all people getting mammograms that have dense breast tissue that they have dense breast tissue. That was a topic on the table for years by the work of many people involved. And so up until that point, there was no national mandate. Every state got to choose whether or not it notified women and people getting mammograms, whether or not they had dense breast tissue. Why this is important? Well, 50% of people have dense breast tissue. And so there's a problem in that dense breast tissue is a risk factor for breast cancer, and it makes it difficult to read a mammogram. And we know that people with dense breast tissue can get a breast cancer screening through ultrasound and through MRI that will deliver the results and the information to say, hey, we've seen something suspicious or we haven't. But mammogram alone on dense breast tissue cannot do that. And we know this is not a question. So why then is the USPSTF now recommending or even suggesting that they don't know that they're not recommending standardized follow-up screening, an adjunct screening to your mammogram if you have dense breast tissue? And we know that 50% of people have this. People getting mammograms, women and people getting mammograms, 50% have this dense breast tissue, and we don't have a national mandate in place that says we need to do a follow-up screening. So this is why I'm here, to help you understand what these letters mean, help you understand what your mammogram report means, and what you need to advocate for based on the state that you live in. Even this FDA mandate that came out, their Mammography Quality Standards Act. A lot of these things are tongue twisters, so bear with me a minute. That doesn't actually even have to be enacted until September 2024. By then, we will have everyone at least receiving these letters that has dense breast tissue. But the next steps are unclear. Even the information is unclear. I advocated for the language on these letters. Some of it was adapted, a lot of it wasn't. I want these letters to say that your mammogram is inconclusive, further screening is required. And I think that sounds very clear to a person getting a letter like that they need additional screening. I think the language is still confusing, and I think that the next steps are still not clear as far as these letters that are going out now. And again, your state may be doing the most. We're just saying that these letters are the bare minimum that states need to do. And there are states leading the way in this that are taking better steps and even going so far as requiring insurance companies to pay for those adjunct screenings. But that isn't across the board. So we're here to help you navigate those next steps and ask the right questions at your mammogram appointment and with your care provider. One of the things that came up in these new recommendations, which I think is fantastic, we recognize that 40%, Black women are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. There's a lot of reasons for that, many, many, many layered reasons for that. Closing that gap in care, closing that gap in survivability it's going to require work, and it's going to require information, and it's going to require all of us. The other piece of that puzzle, though, is that we also know that Black women are more likely to have dense breast tissue. So you can see where there's a little bit of a give and a take. There's this recognition that we need to do more for Black women, especially when it comes to their survivability from this disease. And yet then we're not saying that we need to provide that extra screening that we know is going to give information and give these women a fighting chance at early detection. So this is, again, why I'm so passionate about this work. If it were up to me, many of those gaps in care, right, would be a person shows up for their mammogram appointment, they find out they've got dense breast tissue, they get walked down the hall to the ultrasound room and get an ultrasound screening. I mean, look at how simple that would be. We have the tools and the resources, but guess what? Now that woman doesn't get lost in the system. She doesn't have to wait for a letter to find out what she needs to do next. She doesn't have to get childcare for another appointment, doesn't need to take another day off work, doesn't need to find transportation once again, doesn't need to do all these, jump through all these other hoops, all these very, very basic barriers to care, doesn't need to pay another copay, right? So all of these things are barriers to care, to getting that person back in the room for the follow-up screening so that we can honestly and truthfully say, hey, your results are clear. We see nothing suspicious here. And you're good to go for another year or so. But the truth is, with women with dense breast tissue, we don't know that and we can't say that. And so we just need to take the necessary steps to follow up, ask the right questions, and make sure that we're getting the care that you deserve. I hope that this has been helpful. If you have questions, please let me know. I have an ask for you. Part of the work that I'm doing here, I would really like to know what facilities are doing really well, like who's hitting it out of the park as far in the US. And I'm speaking to all these guidelines here that I'm referring to, and the statistics that I'm referring to are for women in the US, women and people receiving mammograms in the US. So I would like to know what facilities are just hitting home runs. Like they are giving very clear language when it comes to dense breast tissue. They're following up really well. You know what's going on with your healthcare. They're listening to your questions. You're getting those follow-up screenings, all the things, right, that I've mentioned. And I want to help you understand the information that you're getting if you're not receiving care in one of those facilities or in one of those states that are doing better and giving you better information. If you have a lot of questions, I want to be able to break it down and decode it And if you would do me a favor, this is a big ask, but I would love to receive, and you can black out all your personal information, anything personal, please black it out. I want to know what facility these mammogram reports are coming from and these letters are coming from and how you were followed up with. So we can start to share that information. And I can start, I'll come on just like this and start to break it down, break it out, and talk through the steps. Like, these are the questions. This is what this means. These are the questions. What grade is your dense tissue? What what are your BI-RADs? What kind of screening you should be advocating for and when? All the things that come up on these reports that you might have questions about, and how you can advocate for your next best steps. So DM me here if you're on Instagram. You might be watching this on YouTube or someplace else on my website. Please just reach out. If you're willing to share that information, I would love to be able to use real life examples to really just start having more and more of these conversations, because that's really where it starts, when we start to share our experiences and share our stories and share our information to learn how to better advocate and get a better process in place across the board. I mean, we've done it for the notifications. It's an improvement, but we still got a long way to go. The next steps are, getting a national mandate for next steps. And like I said, we already have the information. We already have the tools to be able to do it. We just need to stop creating all these barriers to care and just do it and take care of each other and get the screenings. We have ultrasound machines, we have MRI machines, we know what needs to be done. So we just need to create the access. We need to take down a lot of these barriers to care, and a lot of it starts with information and knowing how and where and when to start advocating, and how we can support each other, right? So, watch each other's kids carpool. Like, we got a grassroots movement sometimes, pull together, have those conversations with your friends, your sisters, your mothers, and get each other to those follow-up appointments. I know it's not easy, but sometimes that's what it takes. And yeah, just like I said, reach out if you have questions. I want to be able to answer them for you. And if you're willing to share that information, I think it's going to be really helpful for just creating more information and more understanding about what's being done and what we can do to improve upon it. I'm Lisa Malia. I hope this was helpful. I look forward to hearing from you, what this means for you and what your experience has been like. So I will be back here soon. Stay tuned, and I'll catch up with you guys shortly. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in.